Good evening everyone and welcome to Planning Highways Committee, Seaford Town Council on the 7th of December 2017. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We're not expecting any fire drills tonight. If the bell does go, you've got a couple of options. You either go the way you came down the stairs and outwards, or you can go out the back of the back fire exit door there. Could be quite slippery as it has been raining today. So just let you know that. There's also a lift outside there. You can come and get out there and hopefully should be able to be rescued by the fire officers if you need to. If you can't, in that aspect. But general people don't use the lift. Okay. I think that's most of that, isn't it? Right. So we'll just general item one, apologies of absence.
There's apologies from the chair, Councillor Walraven and Councillor Lover.
Agenda item 2, disclosure of interest, to deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosure of pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary, as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act 2012 in relation to matters on the agenda. Councillor Bournemouth?
Just to note, Chair, that I am the Sussex County Councillor, so I'm quite happy to participate on this.
Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Yes.
Councillor Latham?
Thank you. LW 170818. The applicant is a neighbour of mine, so I shall be abstaining from the discussion and voting.
Councillor Borman, so it's like add to that you're not a member of the East Sussex County Council Planning Committee. So just to make it clear. Thank you.
Myself, I shan't be voting on LW 170838. Because I live in Valley Drive, not too far away, so as a neighbour, I won't do that one.
Okay.
And also on myself, I shan't actually vote on the Brett application. There's no problem chairing. I shan't actually do a vote on it. I should abstain, personal reasons on that one.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Agenda item 3, public participation. In accordance with Standing Orders 3 and Seaford Town Council policy, members of the public will be entitled to speak on general issues concerning this committee on non-planning applications at this point. People wishing to speak planning applications may do so immediately before the planning application. So just a couple of things. The Brett application in New Haven and the Avondale application that will be dealt with when we get close to that. So this is other stuff apart from those two at the moment. So this is general stuff. So you'll have a chance on those two agenda points near the time. So if there's anyone else going to speak on any, okay, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Jeff King.
I'll just take your name, sorry.
Yes, Jeff King, Marine Drive, Bishopstone. I wonder, are the committee aware of a proposal, a company called Medipower, to install a medical waste incinerator in New Haven Harbour? A lot of tonight is obviously hinging around New Haven Harbour. Apparently their proposal is to burn 12 tonnes of medical waste each day. The obvious impact of this is air pollution. There will be a chimney that will be clearly visible from any vantage point along Seaford Bay, much like the other thing we're going to be discussing later on. As regards air pollution, given the prevailing southwesterly winds, that's going to blow directly to Seaford. So, although it's being burnt in New Haven, we are going to get the rubbish. I understand that they're going to fit some sort of washing system on the exhaust. Question then is, where does this contaminated water go?
There's all sorts of issues, and I'm sure when the application comes out in full, we'll see that. As far as I know, it's not out yet, is it?
No, but I'm coming on to...
Yeah.
These people have applied to Lewes District Council Environmental Health for a permit to operate this plant.
Right.
The deadline to send objections, if you like, comments to Lewes Environmental Health is the 9th of January. I've spoken to East Sussex County Council because being a waste
That's right.
application, it will go to East Sussex County Council. As the guy there said to me, you need to be very careful. If they get their permit from Lewes, that will strengthen their hand when it comes to applying for the planning permission to put the plant in. So we can't dismiss this, we have to do something about it now before the 9th of January with regard to Lewis Environmental Health.
Okay, I mean, at this stage, we take planning applications. Until we get that, we can't take every application that Lewis District Council may receive. That's outside the scope of the town council.
A general session.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And if you've got concerns, you can always go to your Lewis District Council, of course.
Oh, I should be putting my own concerns
Yeah,
in.
absolutely. But we'll take note of what you said
I just
there,
wanted to
obviously.
make Seafield Council aware, if you're choosing
Brilliant.
not to act on that, then I think that's a big shame.
Okay, that's facts for that. Anyone else? Go on.
I'd like to congratulate the town council for
Sorry, can I just take your name? Sorry.
Roger Tong for the magnificent show you organised, French Market and the Christmas event. But all the time, that lovely stuff and now the decorations are dominated by this giant hulk, this awful carbuncle that's been sitting on top of our conservation area right in the middle of the town. I speak of the 6-year-old awful business around Talent Road. I wrote a letter 2 months ago in the Sussex Express. Quite a few people got in contact with me, sadly nobody from the council, asking really what is being done. I then also discovered the person who's really suffering from it all, living right next door. The proceedings up to now, you remember the massive wind and noise from and then the tearing apart into little bits, shreds of the tarpaulin.
That's Storm Brian, wasn't it? Storm Brian, yeah.
Yeah, which necessitated the fire engine to come at
Yeah.
God knows what expense and so on. But all the time, this is the beginning of permanent planning blight in Seaford. You do such good work. I've had friends come in, and one has come last year and then again this year. Couldn't believe they're still there. So a tiny bit of research on my part is that actually when planning permission is given, the planning has to be acted on. And if it isn't acted on for 6 months, 6 years, that original planning permission goes defunct. One, even the Chancellor brought this up, because we are losing out on, I think, 14 housing units already agreed to, and we are desperate for more. The Chancellor pointed out he wants an investigation how planning permissions are being given and no action is being taken for years afterwards. Well, this is a prime example in our own little town. It's ugly. I mean, just walk. You're standing at the top, looking down at the centre of our conservation area, and there it is, this carbuncle, this hulk. You do such wonderful work prettifying our town. Can I motivate you to get moving on this?
Obviously, thank you for talking about Christmas market and the French market and so on. I'm sure it was a very good day though. I know what you mean. When you do go down that end of the street, town, it's not very nice. Councillor Layford, would you like to sort of do a follow-up?
Yes,
Would you like to?
I appreciate your concerns and concerns of everybody else. I've been trying to talk to Lewis District Council, have been talking to Lewis District Council for months about this application since the representations were made at the previous meeting 3 or 4 months ago and before that. And today I actually sent an email to the housing officers and the leader of Lewis District Council, basically saying that the developers are treating both Lewis District Council and Seaford Town Council with contempt, and it's just not acceptable. It's outrageous, and something has to be done about it. And if they can't do anything about it, then we'll resort to the media and get as much publicity as possible, which would be a great shame because it would be negative, and that won't do the council any good at all. But we've got to the point now, after 6 years, as you rightly point out, this is just totally outrageous, and we can't just let it rest. So if I don't get a reply to my email, I didn't get a reply to the last one, I shall arrange a meeting with Lewis District Council, and we will go there and read the riot act to them.
Isn't there also a question that the developers are all kinds of stories? Do they even exist?
Well, the previous, I understand.
Directors resigned.
I understand the
What can
previous
anything do with
developers, for reasons perhaps I shouldn't go into, are no longer the current developers. Right? And the current developers members undertook to get things moving about 3 weeks ago, and nothing has happened. So that is not acceptable, and we're on the case. It must be terrible for you. I've also suggested that you should have a council tax rebate to compensate for the inconvenience, and so that's something I shall bring up on your behalf as well. But we're doing what we can, so please be sympathetic to Seaford Town Council. And
Because originally you were against it.
Just to add what Councillor Latham said, before he's had to make this sort of strong approach, we have, as officers, been trying to persuade the Lewes District Council officers to see that statutory action can be taken against them. But we claim that Lewes have the power to require the developers to complete the development or lose the consent.
Yes, exactly.
The consent is valid because the developers have implemented it. It's only unimplemented consents that can be taken away after 5 years. If you make a start, it lasts forever until statutory action can be taken. But Lewes, the planning and legal department are unwilling to take the action because of the resource implications, which has now meant that Councillor Latham's had to take up the battle. But we have been going to and fro in correspondence with Lewes planners and legal department for 2 or 3 months. And I wanted to just make a response to Mr. King's mention of Medipower.
Yep.
We have got a meeting on the 21st of December, another meeting before Christmas of this committee, and if members are okay with that, I can do some brief investigations and a report to members at that time as to where this application stands, what Medipower intend to do, what the applications they're having to make, the nature of this application, and so report it to members on the 21st. But it is a New Haven matter.
Not when the fumes come this way,
well,
it's not.
I mean, it is a large part of the application is environmental health, the environmental health permit. Obviously, if they gain that permit, they show that they have the technology installed to deal with, to ensure that no nuisance is going to arise under the Environmental Protection Act. Then I think the situation is that they can go to county to get their consent. So it's not a small thing getting this permit. It's the key to the development. So I'm sure that Environmental Health at Lewes won't give any consent out under the permit unless they're 100% sure that the safeguards and the technology in place is going to deal properly with any problems that arise. You can't assume that there are going to be problems with it, because otherwise, the permit won't be granted. But we have got time to make some investigations, and if members are okay with it, I'll do a brief report to the next meeting on the 21st of December, which is before the deadline for consultations, which is, I think, the 9th of January. Yeah. So that counts.
So should we have agreement with that? Everyone happy with that? Yes. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right. So, other items. Sorry, gentlemen, you would like to have a go?
Yeah,
So, Mr.
we don't know. Barry Groves,
Of course, yeah.
yeah, it's in regard to the, all the scaffolding on Saxon Lane and the High Street.
Yep.
It is still causing lots of problems. I saw something the other day which could be to slow traffic down, that East Sussex County Council do that orange sign that you can tie to lampposts. It says think, slow down and what have you. It's sponsored by East Sussex Council, but it's also got the Sussex Police badge on it.
I think they do various ones, don't they? Around the county,
Yeah.
what they're trying to
Yeah.
do, isn't it? Different speed limits.
Because they won't put a speed limit on, on Saxon Lane,
No.
but because of things, I mean, by the way, it's now called Scaffold Seaford. because of all the scaffolding that's up there for months and months and months and nothing's happening. And also there is a problem that businesses in the area that the what used to be the car park at the back of
Yeah, I know what you mean, that one.
yeah, they can't get their rubbish into the bin, so they're dumping it in front of the entrance to it.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And you're getting foxes, rats and everything else here, and it's becoming a right health hazard.
Okay.
And there's been a couple of, Mrs. Valentine, who's the licensee of the office bar, said that because of all that scaffolding up, that it's, some of business was cut down because the whole lot was always in the shade.
Obviously, those sort of issues are both of what you just said are more obvious when you've got all that going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So we'll take note of all of it. I'm sure Councillor Layton's obviously adding to his list of items there for further communication. So
But it is becoming,
Yeah.
you know, because a lot of people
mm,
today, they don't look before they cross the road, obviously, but a lot of them, especially some of the younger wives with their prams, they can't get down there, they're going out into the road, and there's traffic coming up there at quite a fast rate, and, you know, they're getting somewhere.
yeah, some people don't always realise how far that scaffolding goes. Actually, it's quite it's quite surprising really. And if you look at the some people can't believe how far it is, how the scope of it. So
Right.
Yeah, they've got it on the opposite corner now as well.
Okay, right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Groves. So right, okay, gentlemen. at the
Just to
back.
mention on this matter.
Mr. Sorry,
Sorry, Mr. Burns from Beach Coast.
Mr. Brilliant. Yeah.
Just to mention on this matter. First of all, you could possibly take actually nuisance against the scaffolding. The other thing is that whose land is the scaffold pole actually? Whose land is it on?
What do you mean? In the
Does it
street?
go onto the street?
I expect that to be East Sussex.
They can certainly take action against that. They don't have to put up with it being there forever. They can just say, well, you've had enough time to implement, and then we withdraw permission for you to have that on the land, and then you've got rid of your problem. Depends whose land it is.
Okay, we'll take note. Thank you. We'll obviously add it to our list again. So, gentlemen at the sorry, lady front.
Right, just two words really.
You're Mr. Sorry,
Jill Wilson.
Jill Wilson, brilliant.
It's just that this isn't quite the council, but I have been locked out from the back of my property by the fence with scaffolding it. And I haven't been able to get in there. The gardener hasn't been able to get in there. So that's one thing, and that is illegal to shut me out.
Because you thought that was going to be temporary originally, did you?
I didn't know it was going to happen.
Oh, okay.
I don't have any correspondence. I can't get an address to write to them. I send emails. I never get a reply. So I've written to everybody in and around here. But the actual owners, I never have any contact. I can't find their address on the
Internet and everything.
internet,
Right.
there's so many. And really, again, the plastic is still flapping. It's still making one heck of a noise. And I mean, they've drilled holes into my wall to put a lock without my permission. So, the whole thing, I could go on and on, I've got lists, but I won't. But it is really unfair on somebody that lives there. And even when they start, if they build it, it will be another at least 2 years building it. So, it's my life.
Okay, thank you. I think we.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that.
We're drifting off.
Yeah. No, is there anything you want to add something slightly more different to that? Okay, gentlemen, no, this is the last one on this.
Yeah,
this
sure.
topic.
Thank you. It's Jim Skinner. Jim Skinner,
Yep.
Chair of Friends of Tide Mills.
Yeah.
Just harking very briefly back, if I may, to the incinerator application.
What the main, not the one.
Not the
before
Brett
you,
one.
no.
This new one has
Okay.
just come in.
Yeah.
I think it's not solely a New Haven problem, and it's not solely about the actual permit to operate either. You've got to think that they're going to be putting extra heavy goods vehicles on our local roads to service this enterprise, and that affects both towns, of course, and of course the wider district as well. So I just wanted to make that point, that you shouldn't just see this as a New Haven issue, because it really isn't, because of the additional traffic. The other little point I would like to say as well is that this type of enterprise, and I'll make this point regarding the Brett application as well, flies in straight in the face of the New Haven Port Master Plan, which
Well,
aims...
hang on, I don't really want to talk about that, I'm afraid. We're the wrong council talking about the Port Master Plan.
No,
here.
all I'm trying to say is it's not just a Seaford
This is
issue, a
obviously-
New Haven issue.
I mean, we have applications in Eastbourne and Peacehaven and so on. We don't necessarily talk about developments there to increase the traffic that goes through Seaford. I mean, once you start, where do you stop? So that's when you
It's
start
still
getting
relevant,
into the
yeah.
various plans in New Haven. We're not, us
Okay.
here, we're not necessarily au fait with all the detail to go on in New Haven, if you see what I mean.
No, I understand
So
that.
that's how that's scoped. So thanks
But we all share the same roads, that's what I read the
Oh
point
yeah,
I'm trying
we
to
share
make.
lots of
Point of
things. We
interest.
share railway lines.
Just
Sorry.
of interest, you ruled out the New Haven Harbour master plan. You're going to rule it out when we come to the Brett application, because it's relevant for that.
Well, are you saying, as far as I know, the Seaford Town Council's contribution to the New Haven master plan was we weren't involved with anyone on the council at the time. I don't think we were involved with the council going forward. So we are sort of, at this level of parish town councils, we are sort of independent in one way, even though I know something's overlapped. But I thought I'd put that across now, because when you start talking about various plans that go on in New Haven, we don't necessarily know the detail here. We know maybe some of the
No,
principles.
it's a relevant factor, certainly when we come to Brett.
But if you start talking about too much of some of the policies over there, it's not really. It's going to be half the time. You're obviously when you went to the New Haven Town Council meeting, that's more relevant.
The Lewis local plan, you'll rule out.
Oh yeah, no. We're interested in that
Minerals
one.
plan.
Yeah, we're interested in that one. So
Yeah, right.
because that's got more authority than us. So, but we can't, talking about what goes in New Haven too much. I'm sure you were at the New Haven Planning Committee
Well, I
last
was,
week.
yes,
Exactly.
I was.
That's sort of more relevant in that sense, anyway, in a lot of ways.
Yes, but you are a statutory consultee, therefore your input.
We're
is
not, we
valid.
wouldn't necessarily be a
Yeah,
statutory
I'm just
competency
very
on the next one.
conscious of the time.
I am,
Loads of
done.
people
Is that
go
20
forward.
minutes now? I think it is, isn't it?
Well, yes, for the whole lot, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's any other queries.
Chair, if I could just come back to the lady at the front.
Yep.
We've got a health and safety executive that works
Yep.
within the council, and
Yep.
perhaps we can get the details for her, and I'm sure
Yep.
she'd be more than happy to come and help you out, just as a consultee quickly to give us some out, that actually help with us with the information of town plate and the whole stuff. Because of the
Yeah.
introduction for we have to do that.
Right.
I mean, it's just it is an idea. Well, we'll talk afterwards about
Yeah.
that. You have generally.
Separate to what's
Yeah.
going on.
Okay, right. So, what I intend to do is suspend planning orders if council are happy, and we're actually going to go to agenda item 6 first, and then agenda item 5. So both of those will be suspended, but we'll still be keeping an eye on the time for both of those applications. So.
Chair, if I may, bring those items forward, that's fine, if we can vote on, and then obviously I wouldn't.
Oh, once we go back to the normal business.
I don't think we fairly should spend standing orders because we'll be here all evening. I think a lot of things are going to be replicated.
Absolutely. So I'll keep an eye on that one for time wise.
Perhaps if Mr. Thomas could please
yeah.
listen to our plain officer Jeff as to what actually is permissible for us to put forward this representation of the
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Borden. So, okay, so I need a bit of proposal second for us to suspend. So,
I'm not going to suspend standing orders.
well,
Just to enable the
Yeah.
certain items to be brought forward.
You don't have to suspend standing orders.
Yeah, we're still here.
Move the agenda.
Move the agenda.
items around.
so Councillor Latham to propose.
No.
Councillor
We
Vincent.
don't need to suspend.
No, okay, everyone's happy with that. Then we'll just carry on this. So
Carry on.
agenda item,
The comments first.
yeah, agenda item 5. So anyone who want to talk about,
Can I just introduce?
yeah, you want to do something about our context.
Members have already received quite a full report on the details of the application, and everything that Mr. King, who's led the campaign of rejection and submitted a petition to New Haven Town Council, everything that Mr. King has brought forward has been forwarded to members. So I wanted Mr. King to know that before he addresses members, that they've already seen everything that he has submitted to New Haven Town Council and to this council on the application. There's a couple of things to update members on. Firstly, the meeting at Newhaven on the 28th of November, when their committee considered its response to the application. There are 120 members of the public there, I have the minutes in front of me, and many members of the public spoke in objection. And the resolution of Newhaven Town Council was to object strongly to this application. It was unanimous, paying particular attention to the visual impact of the development on Seaford Bay, the National Park and the townscape, the environmental impact on wildlife, flora and human beings, the traffic impact on the roads in Newhaven and surrounding areas and the inadequate infrastructure, the health impacts on local residents caused by particulates in the air which cause lung and heart disease, the impact of noise on local residents, visitors and those working in the town, and the detrimental effect of this development on the regeneration of the town. And they also referred to the other issues raised by members of the public during the meeting, and it was also resolved to ask for a health impact assessment to be carried out by the applicant. And as I said, that was passed unanimously, so that's an objection which has already gone forward to the county. The second item which has occurred even more recently, that's the submission of South Downs National Park Authority's response to the application. That appeared, that's dated the 5th of December and appeared on the website on Tuesday. It's 4 or 5 pages of detail, mostly setting out the details of the application. But when it comes to the conclusions, the South Downs National Park Authority's conclusion is that in terms of the documents submitted and mitigation measures proposed, the authority raises an objection to the scheme due to landscape and visual impact, with particular focus on the South Downs National Park, its purposes and special qualities. The significant visual effects of the proposal are clearly demonstrated in the photo montages and are most striking when viewed from the Tide Mills area of the National Park. And the significance of these effects and the role that the site currently plays in the landscape character of the area has failed to be drawn out in the landscape and visual impact assessment. And as a result of the astonishingly poor quality assessment, there is a significant lack of mitigation measures, particularly in response to the adverse visual effects on the National Park. That's a particularly strong objection, as I'm sure you'll agree. And it does in a way make it difficult for the application to go forward in its current form. It may be that the application will have to be delayed while the applicants deal with that objection by revising the assessment or doing a completely new assessment and submitting that to the county. So there could be a delay. Certainly if the county council goes ahead with the consideration of the application in its current form, without any modification, without any revision of this landscape assessment, which has been condemned, if you like, by South Downs National Park Authority, it would be difficult for the county to grant permission. If they do, it's likely that the South Downs National Park Authority, given the terms of their objection, will challenge the decision. But I mean, that's just surmising. It wouldn't surprise me if the whole application was now delayed while Brett's reassessed its position regarding the landscape and visual impact assessment and makes the decision maybe either to withdraw the application or to delay it to allow a new assessment to be made. Certainly it's a very strong objection, a very strong intervention from a very weighty consultee. But as I say, it's only dated the 5th of December, which is Tuesday, so it's likely that Brett's are still considering their position on that. So as far as this committee is concerned, it should put maximum weight on the landscape and visual impact, because that's the issue which really affects Seaford most, rather than the actual principles of the development as far as New Haven are concerned. I mean, obviously, the traffic and pollution issues could affect Seaford, but the issue to concentrate on, to place the maximum weight on, are these issues that have been identified by the South Downs National Park Authority. And having said that, I think that's all I need to say in updating you. You've received all the material from Mr. King. I think an additional representation from Richard White on behalf of Seaford Facebook. Residents Voice, that's right. And those are the only representations that have been received up till today. So, which one?
Right. Obviously, I'll start with some people. It starts repeating, and I'll obviously curtail some of the. We'll hear the first three so far, and then we'll go from there.
There's a 4 minute,
Because it's 4 minutes
4
maximum,
minute
right?
limit
Yeah.
on.
And if it starts being the same,
Yeah.
then I'll obviously stop it because we want some
As I say,
additional.
Can I reply first? Because
Your petition and everything.
Jeff Johnson has covered most of my points already, so I'd like to.
Would you like to summarise very briefly then? Go on.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
You're welcome to. It's all, yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
4 minutes.
You've got 4 minutes.
I think Jeff Johnson's picked up all the points I raised.
Yep.
Environmental, traffic,
Yeah.
pollution, blah blah.
Yeah.
I won't go into it because you've all got
Yeah.
it. I was going to raise the fact that the South Downs National Park report came out this week,
Yep.
but we've
Done
covered
that,
that as
yeah.
well. I think it worth mentioning that the application as regards Brett is fundamentally flawed. Their environmental impact assessment is flawed. They're looking for wildlife, in particular reptiles. They used the wrong sampling methods at the
Yeah.
wrong time of year against government guidelines. They came up with nothing found, whereas a similar survey done at the right time of year finds stuff. Anyway, there's also a report within the Brett application called the Stanmore Report, which rules out just about everywhere as regards aggregates apart from East Key, which of course Brett wants to use. And it absolutely rubbishes the North Key, which is a safeguarded berth on the East Sussex County Council Waste and Management Plan for aggregates, and says in as many words that it's no longer commercially used. That report came out the same week. There was a ship unloading aggregates on the North Quay. So the whole application is fundamentally flawed. Their environmental survey, their assessment of New Haven Harbour is flawed. I'm not going to go into everything as we've said because Jeff Johnson has kindly covered it all. I know we've mentioned briefly the New Haven Harbour master plan.
Yeah.
Now, back in 2015, 0034, I know it well, because I'll be back one too,
Yeah.
when Newhaven MPP applied for an extension to the harbour, that was for clean, green, energy industry related companies to work alongside the wind farm operation. What have we seen? A concrete works, or potentially a concrete works. I put it to you that this and what we were discussing earlier, the medical waste facility, it's New Haven just grabbing, or New Haven Harbour, I'll be specific, New Haven Harbour grabbing whatever cookbuck they can get, anybody they can get.
That's about it.
And this is the wrong industry in the wrong place, it should not be allowed. There we are. I'll stop there.
Right, gentleman at the back.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, obviously I support everything that Mr. King has just iterated, but there is one other little issue that I would like to just cover, if I may.
Yep.
Tide Mills basically is a shared asset between Seaford and New Haven. In fact, all of the coastal strip, if not the wider Lewes District Council area. We are convinced, as friends of Tide Mills, that this area of land is now an increasingly valuable, economically valuable jewel in our strip. We are definitely seeing increasing numbers of visitors to Tide Mills. There's a significant number who are coming in from the outside the district. We have a whole raft of different interests which are satisfied by a visit to Tide Mills, and this must manifest itself in a monetary value to our local communities, which I think is undersold. We don't consider quite as much as we should do. This is a fantastic little spot, as we all hopefully agree, and it should be nurtured and managed in that light. So I think we have to see Tide Mills as a shared asset, and I'd like to think that council would take that particular aspect of this issue into account when coming to its conclusion.
I'm sure when we go around the table of the committee, we'll talk about the
Okay.
aspects. I'm
Thanks,
sure when
Jeff.
we get there.
Thanks.
Right, so gentleman to the left. Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Try again, sorry.
Burns.
Mr. Burns, sorry.
Beach Close.
I'm not vague.
That's all right. Well, I'm here to urge the committee to object, notwithstanding whatever's happened with the South Downs National Park objection, which I agree is very damning. I completely agree the major impacts on seafood are the visual immunity, loss of habitat, possibly slightly economic loss. What I would say is that there is a local district policy that applies to that area, a saved policy from the old local plan that this application seems to directly contradict. And in relation to the South Downs National Park application, I see a South Downs National Park comment.
Yeah.
At the end it says that they are encouraging communication with Brett about how to address their concerns. Now, given the scale of the building, and the fact that if there are concrete batching plants, they will have to be high level. It's very difficult to understand how they will be able to address the visual impact in any sort of meaningful way, because it is what it is. It's a great big building for making concrete blocks, and I've yet to see a concrete batching plant that wasn't 30 metres high.
Yeah.
So 20 metres high, sorry. So I think that it's important for the council to get its objection in on the basis of visual impact, notwithstanding anything else that happens. That's it, really. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So I'm talking of visual impact.
Sorry, no, you've had your turn, come on.
This is Brett's own office.
Yeah, I know.
Other people
Please, go on.
I'm Ruth Rose, and I'm representing the early morning swimmers that swim every day in Seaford Bay all year round.
Okay.
And there's a good number of us, and this facility is very important to us. Now, nobody has mentioned the effect of two things. The first is that the plan that they have shown interrupts a right-of-way, which at one end of which is Seaford, and that's against the rights-of-way of Act 2000-2003, Section 42. And nobody has raised this yet in an objection. It would make any right-of-way diversion go below the high tide mark, and that's just not acceptable. The second part of it is it cuts off a certain part of the public land behind the East Quay, and that won't be accessible except at lower tides. And the most important part of all this is that the tidal drift on Seaford Bay is, for most parts of the tide, is going from west to east, but some of the time it goes from east to west. Now that's around about the third of the tide times. The sweep of that tide will be interrupted by the extension pier that is part of the earlier proposals for this, and it will cause the bar at the river bar to go something like 50 metres further out to sea, and will cause eddy currents around the end of the solid pier. That's why the skeleton pier was a skeleton pier, to allow the tides to go through it, and it will make that a solid wall, and the tide race will go round the end, similar to the one going round the lighthouse, around about 4.5 knots at the worst tide conditions. So this is going to seriously affect Seaford Beach all the way along, because the tidal sweep will be interrupted and changed, and the deposition of sand and stones and all the rest of it will change because of that, and that affects Seaford.
Okay, yeah, that's noted. Right, anyone else got anyone to, anything additional to add?
Can I
Gentlemen.
just make a point?
Mr.
John Edson.
Yep,
Yeah. I live on Rookery Hill, Bishopstone.
Yep.
And we face tide mills. That's part of Seaford. And if there's anything negative coming out of these plants, it's going to hit us first. But we are part of Seaford, and that should be taken into consideration. It's not just about New Haven, it's about us. And in answer to what you said, when I went to the presentation on that first Saturday and I asked them about them sealing up that East Quay and what effect it would have on Seaford Bay, they couldn't give me an answer. So they've just not done their homework at all. They just want to get there as quick as they can and push it through.
Okay, so we're taking note from yourself and the lady about the sealing up of that of the.
Yeah, that I think that's a major thing. And plus the fact that we live quite close to where that will be start spitting out all this dust and everything.
Right, I think there's no one else to talk about on that one, so right, over to the committee. Who'd like to make a start on this one?
I object from everything we've heard so far, and I was quite open-minded about it until I read the letter from South Downs National Park, and I sort of made my decision based on the back of that. Eventually, that sort of swung me, really. So yeah, I'm against it, and I recommend we object based on the looking at it from the Seaford sort of angle, the sort of landscape and visual impact.
Okay, so that's the first visual impact, yeah. Anything else? No?
So, yeah.
It's mainly the visual impact you're going for at this stage.
Yeah, I'm just going to focus on that. I'll let other people.
Okay, Councillor Freeman, would you like?
I'll second that, and especially on the grounds that it may affect our small tourist industry.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be put off coming to Seaford if they know they're not going to be able to sit on the beach and be disturbed by all this machinery, concrete stuff going on. But if that's a proposition Councillor Elton's making, I'll second it.
So the additional thing is talking about the lack of use of the tide mills and Seaford Bay generally, the
And
use
the
of the
impact on our tourists,
the tourist aspect around, which affects, of course, Seaford and New Haven, of course, both.
Plus the impact on the local people.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Latham.
Thank you, Chairman. There's so much to object to with this application, know where to start, so I won't say very much. I'll just say that I agree with everything that's been said this evening so far, I think without exception. I think the issue regarding the right of way is a very important point that the lady raised, particularly with regard to rerouting the right of way being below the high water mark, which clearly is impossible. The visual impact is obviously an issue with regard to the height of the towers. And when I first looked at the application, I think stage 4, I think it is, which right down to the coastline, it seemed to me, particularly with, I think it's a 20-metre tower envisaged, just absurd. So I think this is a very poor application, even though it's a very voluminous application. And I would hope that it will be objected to very strongly, as indeed the South Downs National Park has, and so I support objecting to this application.
Okay, right, Councillor Baldwin,
Thanks. So I want to say anything. There are, I will just say a footnote. I think it's a good thing, a representation, but there are consultees towards it as well.
Absolutely,
there's an insights withstanding in terms of planning. There are a lot of people out there that actually, the silent majority of people that do support this application, and as a town council, it's quite rightly pointed out, ours really is a visual thing, the infrastructure
from the
thing.
Seaford perspective,
They've dealt with it, you know, and it may well be that they could look at even excavating into the thing to reduce the height of it as an appeasement to it. So it's a difficult point because you do need to have something down there. As an East Sussex Council, we've got a massive deficit, and some of this is obviously going to be money driven of getting business in there. They are a business that have approached with an application, as the same with the incinerator, which is going on to something else as well. You know, and I think you are going to see some form of development down there. There's been a lot of talk about the infrastructure. There's a lot of businesses that have grown, so I don't necessarily say that 90 or 100 vehicles is actually the capping of it. I'm sure there's going to be more once that goes goes through as the other businesses have grown, and then they go look for somewhere else, if it becomes unethical for them to run
Yeah.
in that area as well. So, I mean, I actually, until I read this evening, the South Downs thing, was in favour of supporting it, and I'm actually going to abstain now because I would be interested. I think, as Jeff has guided, the fact that there will be a withdrawal of this application based on what's been presented at the moment. So, but had that not come through, perhaps I would have been a lot more. I would have been supporting the application.
I mean, I also, obviously being East County Council, you may want to speak at
I
various
will,
stages.
I will, if this continues, I will be speaking up on it.
Yeah.
So, but we'll just wait and see what happens now. So,
Okay. Thanks for that, Councillor Gordon, thank you very much. So, is anyone else want to speak on the?
Just wondered if there's any views on the issue of pollution and the health aspects, the noise, because obviously you're homing in on the main issue, which is the visual impact.
That's what we're going on for.
yeah, I'll just come back quickly. The points that are made with the tidal effect, that is very interesting. Obviously, that should definitely be included.
Yeah, we're dealing with that. Yeah.
I think it's wrong to completely object to it, but I think we should say that we do support things with a balance.
You mean to say that
We're
you're
recognising
not opposed in principle to the regeneration of
Newhaven,
but this is the wrong way to do it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And obviously the tidal regulation. You know, there's a lot of things that people this day and age, the consultations that go on are massive, and they've got to tick a lot of boxes before they can get anywhere. I think our officers have obviously put this in front of the council to decide, because sometimes things will not even come to a planning committee and just get approval. Yeah, and that's the thing that people sometimes don't realise. So it's just a footnote again, really. So.
Okay, Councillor Finn, will I come back? Yeah.
Yes, I'm very concerned about the health aspect as well. I think it's I know we've got the Rampion Wind Farm, which I think is brilliant, and to have this concrete obscenity doesn't seem to conflict with that so much.
Well, I think, okay, Councillor,
I'm just a bit concerned about the pollution thing, because isn't it worth just sticking with what we know, rather than, because it's a bit vague,
it depends what technology they've got behind it all.
These sort of activities are notoriously difficult to control as far as pollution is concerned, because of the amount of dust, especially that's generated. I know that from experience of other plants in other areas. So I think it's a valid concern. It's certainly a concern that's been expressed by a lot of people who submitted objections. Obviously, you expect, if it does go ahead, that they will use the latest techniques and technology to control.
They could answer.
But nevertheless, it's particular type of development which inevitably means it is very difficult to control 100% as far as dust and noise are concerned. So
I think they could come back and answer all those points, couldn't they? Button it all up.
Button
up the visual.
I still think if you have concerns, you should put them forward.
Yeah. At the end of the day, this is it's regulated. They have strict regulations and guidelines they have to follow. Yes, I'm not saying they will be true, because I don't know the impacts, but obviously there are concerned health things. They're all valid points, but all those will take into consideration, and obviously the safety surrounding the areas, and that will be consulted on quite professionally, quite usefully. They've got all support there, far more information than what we've got here tonight.
So what we've got on the table at the moment then is obviously proposed by Council Eltham, added to is the visual impact, the impact to the sort of the industry, the local tourism industry, relating to the beach, tide mills, and the tidal aspects around the harbour, East Quay. I know it's just in Newhaven, but it does affect the whole of Seaford Bay. So impact on the local people generally, because obviously the use of the whole area will change, and the health pollution, the impact as well, that aspect.
Sure.
We've got. Hang on, no, we don't go back to the public now.
Just on I can give you some technical input if you want something.
No, we don't need it here, sorry, it's too, the focus is really, number one is the visual impact, that's what we're going on here tonight. I know when you're at Newhaven you could probably talk a bit more about it.
No, I have some technical expertise that's relevant to what you just said.
No, that's it. We don't, once you
Fair enough.
Q&A.
The
tide
So
element.
So I think we've got the four main aspects there. Are you happy with those additions? And Councillor Phelan, so that's good. Councillor Blake, you want to come back? Anything else?
And the tide. The tide.
Yeah, I mentioned that with the tide.
Yeah. Okay.
Mentioned that.
I think it's worth also mentioning that we've looked carefully at the South Downs National Park objection, and we support entirely the views of, I think without exception, the views of the South Downs National Park, because their main concern was visual impact.
And can we mention...
refer to that in the response, and the fact that, you know, they've identified a major flaw in the application, which you know, which is of a great concern to members.
Can we mention your hometown councils as well? Just, I know. Obviously, we note their report as well.
Well, you can mention that, you know, supporting Newhaven Town Council's objection, supporting the South Downs objection.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we'll do that in addition. So I think
the other important point was the gentleman raised with regard to ecology. And the fact that the assessments have been undertaken at the wrong time of the year.
Yeah, wrong time of year.
So,
we'll do that.
There's some misrepresentation there, and if there are flaws in misrepresentation with regard to one aspect of the application, it's quite likely there are with regard to other aspects too. So the whole application.
So
there was a specific element of Newhaven's objection was regarding effect on wildlife. So we could, if you wanted to put that in, we could mention it there, and, you know, the lack of proper ecological information in the application.
Brett feel they have undertaken a proper assessment, and the point to make is that it was not a proper, effective assessment.
We don't want to mention these fairly specific, we'll just leave it vague.
Well, no, it's all right.
Okay, so I think
get all those elements in.
Yeah, I think we've got most of it.
It's very well about 25.
Well, that's how they think.
The distance of the eye to the nearest seated area, it's high, but you know, it's not a...
It's difficult to be specific on the wording of the whole thing now, but I've just taken all the views that you've submitted, all the elements you've submitted.
Hang on, we just did the vote and then okay. Right, so with all the points which myself and Jeff Johnson have mentioned, it'll be tidied up in the minutes. We've got proposed by Councillor Elton and seconded by Councillor Freeman. All those in favour, or for the ejection?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 in favour.
Anyone against? Any abstentions?
That's one of
those abstaining. No.
Yeah, so that's an MCOM.
Okay. So the objection there is carried. I think we'll just take a 5-minute break to let people go out if they want to go out of this stage before we move on to the next application. Right, we're back on agenda item 5 now. That's the planning application about the Avondale Hotel. That's LW 170929. Avondale Hotel, Avondale Road, and it's basically come back with additions. So we'd like to say something.
This is the application. Basically the same proposals as was considered before in the summer. But this time it has full supporting information, which was sadly lacking from the first application. There's been, apart from the objections on the website, there's been a recent letter from one of the objectors, or two of the objectors, to the council in response to the report that's in front of you on the agenda. It's from Mr. Wicks and Mr. Edwards of 3 Avondale Road, who had already submitted an objection to the application. But this adds some points. Following the planning officer's report to the council, I wish to make further and additional comments and amplification regarding this second application. The hotel proprietors were happy to present the business for sale together with books or accounts showing reasonable income and profits. Sale particulars enthusiastically suggested further expansion as a guest house hotel business would not be difficult to achieve. The lack of interest in this business may therefore simply be reflective of the somewhat overinflated asking price. Airbnb, together with altered client preference, has been suggested as causing a need for change to an HMO. However, Airbnb is available in business utilisation to the Avondale Hotel. The percentage required by Airbnb can be agreed and factored into business plans with prices and standards adjusted to achieve income and profit. Rooms may require updating to prove attractive to adjusted client requirements. Alternatively, the business purchase price could be altered in attraction of new management who are able to move forward in contribution to Seaford's tourist economy. Internal alteration as considered and suggested by the planning case officer does little, unfortunately, to overcome concerns regarding adverse impact upon residents of the locality and indeed upon close amenity in the town generally. Change of use and dismissal of policies should not, in this particular case, be permitted simply because the present proprietors have failed in management or because they are unable or unwilling to move with the times, as other similar guest businesses have managed to do. And they ask for this letter to be considered by the committee today in its deliberations. So that's all I've got to add.
Well, it's members of the public who would like to speak on that. So, gentleman in the front, Mr.
John Adams, 6 Avondale Road.
You'd like to talk?
Yes. The recent revision in the overcoming concerns, they haven't. I'll put in my report that a bathroom on the first floor is overlooked by a dormer on the second floor. I've actually got a picture if any committee members want to look at it.
I don't mind if you've got it.
Sorry, I have a picture of it here.
Everyone else might have seen it. And pass that round.
Yeah. The other item is a relatively minor one, the management plan that they've thought we produced. They've removed any space for the manager in their floor plans. The elevation floor plans don't have any space for them.
So no office effectively, if it was to go in there, not occupation. Okay.
I want to support the hotel, but you don't want me to go into a diatribe, so I'll leave it at that.
So are you objecting? You're not supporting the application, are you? Correct. No, you're against it, but you support the hotel.
Support the retention of the hotel.
Yeah, that's fine, absolutely fine. Retain it as a hotel, not as a change of.
I don't have any other interest in it.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Moore, the agent.
Okay. You'd like to speak?
I wasn't going to. I really just wanted to come here so that I could answer any questions you might have. I've got Mr. Moffat, the applicant, here. I think Mr. Johnson's report to you was very succinct, and I think paints a very fair picture. I would obviously like to draw your attention to the quoted paragraph at the end of that report, which was from Peter Sharp, Head of Regeneration at Lewes District Council, who now offers his support for the scheme. And I believe with the layout changes we've made to the scheme, we've overcome any original concerns over overlooking and privacy. And I'm confident we will get Chris Wright, Planning Officer at Lewes, I will get his support for the scheme too. So, as I say, if you have any questions, applicant, agent, we're here to answer them for you.
Would you like to speak on the matter at all? Yourself, Mr. Moffat?
Not really. I mean, he's said everything that needs to be said to him, and it's all in the report as well.
Okay, so you're happy with the report?
Yeah,
what we've done and everything. Okay,
yeah.
So that's fine for now. Anyone else want to speak on this? No, I think I'll let the committee make a start. Councillor Litchfield.
Yeah, the potential for sort of 30 more people in more or less permanent residence there. Potential 15 cars or 15 plus cars. Where are they going to park?
There's the car parking issue.
There is plus there's a lot of congestion on Seaford streets anyway. And I think we really, Seaford was not designed to be a town for cars, was it? But we all have cars nowadays, so it's just making something a permanent place for potential 30 people with 15 or more cars.
Okay, anything else for them? No? Anyone else want to come? Anyone else would like to talk about it? Councillor Latham?
Thank you, Chair. I continue to object to this application for the same reason we've basically given previously.
Yep.
I feel it's inappropriate change of use. We're very hard up for hotel accommodation in Seaford. I feel that with the proper management, the business could be a success as a hotel. And I don't feel that the reasons given with regard to the business declining necessarily are as accurate as portrayed. Maybe the business is declining, but the reasons for that could be there could be a number of reasons for that. So I object to this application. I think it's an inappropriate development, and I'd like to propose that we do object to it.
Okay, so you're proposing then for objection on the grounds of the change of use for the hotel, because it'll diminish the lack of accommodation for the hotel industry.
Correct.
And also the parking.
I'm very much involved with the neighbourhood plan,
That's right.
and accommodation is visitor accommodation is a key element of the neighbourhood plan.
Yep.
And hitherto we've been unable to include hotel accommodation in that plan, and the plan will be weaker, in my view, without the Avondale as a hotel. So I do object.
Okay. So are you seconding what we've got at the moment, then, Councillor Freeman? And would you like to second, Councillor Latham?
Yes.
Yeah. Right, Councillor.
Well, thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, as one of the ward councillors in that area.
Right, okay, we'd like to speak about it. Yeah, the ward councillor.
Yeah, and as ward councillor, I did totally object to this in the last time. The report that came back said antisocial behaviour.
Yep,
I've noticed that the residents have only been reduced by one, which is neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. And I would like to second Councillor Latham's objection.
Okay. Okay, that's Councillor Elton.
I've got concerns about the number of people in the size of the property. I would prefer to see a hotel personally for the town. If they couldn't do a hotel, maybe convert it into flats with less people.
Less people.
Yeah. It just seems the wrong kind of density
Okay.
for the town and such a residential sort of area, really. But that's,
Obviously, that's not on the table tonight. But
No,
but
it's
I
just
know
a
what you mean. Maybe,
comment,
yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we're sticking with either the hotel or the housing model occupation. Councillor Boardman.
Just as a footnote, but I looked on Rightmove for this, and they actually show that it makes a profit. So just a bit miffed.
Well, we aren't going through all the accountings.
Yeah, but
of the,
I missed the presentation somewhere. The marketing to something that's saying it's making a big profit, and then it appears to be a loss. So misleading.
Okay. Would you like to? I don't mind. I'll just if everyone's happy, we'll get an answer from the applicant if we like to on that one. I don't mind if everyone's happy with me just having a on that. No, we can't support.
Just respond very briefly to the points that were raised. Car parking. This is for people that need emergency housing. But being fair, they can barely afford a loaf of bread. They won't be running cars. Also, it's important to remember it's been running as a hotel for as long as we can all remember. Most people, certainly a while back, would be bringing cars. More people now travel by bus and train. I don't think car parking is an issue, and I think if they haven't already, I don't think they have, but would not object on this on car parking grounds. Loss of a hotel, that has been well thrashed out with Peter Sharp, head of regeneration at Lewes District Council. I note in his, I think he's given a 3-page consultation comments. I think at the end he uses the word reluctantly, but he accepts that a change of use to this is now looking to be on the cards. I've gone into detail in terms of the impact of Airbnb and the fact that they've failed to find someone to take this on as a going concern. That justifies, I think, the loss of the hotel. Density, fair point. However, we feel, and I think you'll find Chris Wright feels at Lewes, that the property is of a size that it could accommodate this number of people.
How big has each person? How big are the rooms?
They're a mix of, I can't tell you in terms of floor space, but they're a mix of singles and double bedrooms.
11 self-contained,
yeah,
which would be for preferably families.
Yeah.
And there's 4 doubles and I think 5 singles. So
Rooms?
yes.
Yeah, with toilets and...
Yeah, the toilets and
Rooms.
cooking facilities. So they'll be like little self-contained flats basically.
Yeah. What's the square foot? They all seem really small, and I'm sort of concerned.
Well, there is
There's HMO standards that we need to comply with.
Yeah.
And I think, I know that Lewis will consult with their own HMO officers, and if they don't, if these rooms and other parts of the layout don't meet the HMO standards, the HMO officer will not support this.
and the 11 self-contained flats are more likely to be for families.
Yeah.
And there is going to be like 2 members of staff on duty 24 hours a day, so it's not like there's going to be antisocial behaviour like
Is it
everyone is saying.
temporary accommodation?
Yeah, they can stay there for up to 6 weeks, but as we've got self-contained, they might stay there a little bit longer.
And what would the average applicant, who would the average applicant be?
It's more likely to be families from
Yeah, but where would they be from?
just a local area, because Lewis now joined Eastbourne. It'd be from anywhere between Lewis and Eastbourne.
What sort of people need this housing? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. Could I just quickly...
People can't get on the housing council.
Sorry, just quickly. You said it's going to be warden assisted, is it? And there's going to be someone there 24 hours a day?
Yeah, it's going to be staffed.
24 hours a day?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, right, let's come back to the
And what
table
capacity,
again.
what, are they security guards or are they just...
They'll be fully trained in this type, looking after these sort of people.
I mean, I do appreciate we need...
That's all right, go on.
Sorry, Councillor Freeman, you will have your turn to speak as well.
Just go through the chair, please.
I have,
Go on, go on.
we've dropped standing orders, please.
We have briefly, yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
I've actually possibly trying to thought. Carry on, Councillor Freeman, I'll come back to the main street.
Right, okay, go on, Councillor Finn, go on.
I was just wondering, how come we didn't get all this information that we're now being told when this first came up?
We only get a certain amount of information that for the planning aspects at a given time.
You know, if we
It's
know
obviously
it
been
was sort of
through...
providing emergency accommodation.
Because obviously the
May I
applicant and the applicant and the agent have been obviously talking a lot with the City Council, obviously since August, since it's got turned down by ourselves and obviously our opinion and District Council, and now they're working with the District Council, and it's sort of come back in a slightly different way. This is obviously quite common. Applicants do often come back, so it's not too unusual.
I just think the information has given us far more information than the original application did,
Well, that's often
which
often
may
isn't
have
right.
altered our views.
I don't think they were... The people responsible for putting in the first application weren't aware of the need for specific kind of supporting information for this kind of application, which involves the loss of a hotel. Maybe they didn't take the right professional advice, but obviously they now have, and it's all online, you know, and the first application is really a full start, and this is the proper application.
That sometimes does happen. I'm talking in general terms, not particularly to this one. Would you like to have a come back and council?
Yeah, it really comes back to, I just want to be sure that with respect to the accommodation requirements for the town, that when we do make our objective, if that's what we make, that we do refer to that. I'm cognizant of the fact that when there's a reapplication such as this to those district council, I think the planning officers there are very reluctant to turn it down a second time, particularly if work has been done as here. Because of the risk of appeal costs and all the rest of it, the problems that causes. So I have a little bit of concern. I think my overall feeling is that perhaps Lewis will approve this now, but I object to it.
I forget about the first application. Actually, this is the application. So I think it's a bit of a red herring. The first application. It was, as I say, it can be completely ignored because I don't know where it came from, but it wasn't really an application. This is the application.
Okay, Councillor, we've got to come back.
Obviously, there is a need for emergency housing within
there's everywhere, yeah.
We should take a part of that as well. And it is sad to lose a hotel. I think I've probably supported that at the time. I'm just concerned about the numbers, but I don't object to having it. And I would like actually one day to be able to see that there wasn't a need for this sort of housing within the area, and it goes back to what it was intended as a hotel. So that would be the nice thing. So I would actually be now supporting the application for it, but I do have a little question about the number of residents and how that. I am quite pleased to hear that it will be more than 24 hours a day. I think that, from memory, was a lot of the concerns that was
possible antisocial behaviour.
was a strong thing, so I would propose we support the application.
Okay, I think we've already had a couple of objections. I tell you, I'll let
say one more thing.
One more go, and then we'll bring it back on. So if you'd like to say something now, and
Just gonna say that
then we'll bring it back on.
I've already had a meeting with the Lewis District Council, and they're willing to take the property for over a year. They've already got people to fill this place up once we get the permission, if we get the permission.
It's based
So-
on seafood.
There is a need for it.
That's not part of the.
It's not part of
the
this.
planning consideration.
that's not-
No, just saying.
Okay, we're now back with the table now. So we've already had an early objection from Councillor and Councillor Latham. So that's on the table at the moment. So
Can we clarify the reasons? Because
Yeah,
Councillor Latham emphasised the loss of the hotel.
Yep.
Councillor Goodman emphasised the effect on the amenity of the area. But there's
parking aspects as well.
there's also the third issue that Mr. Adams raised about loss of privacy and overlooking at the rear. So if you could make it clear which of those elements that you're including in the resolution.
Probably all of them.
Okay, so I think unless anyone wants to talk, we'll do the vote on that at this stage. So this is to object the application. If all those in favour or objecting. So
1, 2, 3, objection.
all those against.
1, 2,
Against.
3. That's
And all those
It's
abstaining,
tied.
any abstainings for, so that's one.
one abstention. Do you have a casting vote?
I'm gonna stick with the
Or your vote actually?
my own opinion, because I've been involved with the neighbourhood plan, is to stick with the hotel aspect. That's my view. That was because I've been involved a fair bit with the neighbourhood plan aspect. So that's
So the objection is resolved by 4 votes to 3, with one
it's very,
abstention.
very close, but
Chair, can I just ask that you do notes on the support, the fact we recognise that we need.
yes, we'll say that in there as
More
well.
important to-
The recognisation of the,
Yeah.
and I just say you'll have your chance at those districts anyway, won't you? So in that sense, so but it's.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll recognise that there's the need for emergency housing. We'll say that as one part of the response. So that's. Would you like to leave now before we go to the next item? Because we're going to go back to substantial items. So we'll have a few minutes break now. Okay, thanks very much. Come in. Okay, thank you. Right, so agenda item 4, planning applications, week ending 10th of November 2017. LW 170803, One Vale Close, election of 4-bedroom dwelling. Who would like to start on that one? Councillor Freeman, would you Freeman?
Yes, sir. Concerned that one of the bedrooms looks so tiny, almost like a cupboard.
Okay.
And I can't see a bathroom anywhere in the house.
Yeah, don't blame you for being concerned, but it's not really a ground for
Okay.
refusal, but it is a ground for concern.
Councillor Nick Freeman.
I was just going to say that looking at the plans, the new building is almost a copycat of the building next door. So
Yes, and a 2-bedroom house has already been granted there. It's just a larger version of what's already been granted last year, I think. And there's space on the end to make it a bit larger on the end of the terrace.
Is Councillor Bourne?
Yeah, propose to support the application, Chair.
Okay, well, yes, you're proposing, anyone want a second, Councillor Latham? Would you like to talk on the item?
No, I'd like to second it.
Okay, anyone else like to talk on it? No? Okay, all those in favour to support, that's unanimous, thank you very much.
I mentioned to Lewis that we were aware that the
the portions
they like a bit of added wording to.
Yeah, the proportions of the rooms I thought were a bit small
Yeah.
when I was looking at it. Again, it's like them coming back again, like we were saying on the other one. Sometimes they do come back, don't they? So, right, LW 170818, 28 Chimpton Way. Anyone like to talk on the application? No? Councillor Elton?
Yeah, I had a look online this morning. I couldn't get access to the detailed plans for some reason. I don't know why. I'm just really slow on the website. I'm not a fan of the planning website at all. But I could see the block plan, and it looked sensible in regards to the surrounding property, so I wouldn't have an objection to it at all, and I would support it.
Okay, so that's the proposal, Councillor Boardman.
Seconded, Chair.
Okay, anyone else like to talk on the application? Councillor Nick Freeman? No? Okay, so all those in favour to support the application?
Thank you.
All those against?
Councillor
And councillors abstaining?
Nay.
Right. Yep. Okay, LW 170838 Nine Valley Drive, side single story extension, rear conservatory, loft conversion and alterations. Nine Valley Drive. Anyone member of the public like to talk on the item? No? Member of the committee?
Yeah.
Councillor Bourne?
I propose that we support the application, Chair.
Councillor, yeah, so you'd like to second that? You like to second? Yeah, you'd like to talk on it? Right, okay. Anyone else like to talk on the application? Right, so all those in favour then? That's unanimous again. LW 170937 25 Blackington Hill, and that's the on single story extension. Who would like to talk? A member of the public? No? Okay, Councillor Latham.
It's a large plot,
Yep.
and there aren't any archaeology issues because
Yep.
the extension is on previously a terraced area which has been developed, so I support the application.
So you're proposing, yeah? And Councillor
I'd like to second.
give a second. Anyone else like to talk on the item? No? So all those in favour? That's again unanimous. Planning applications weekend 17th of November 2017, LW 170907, 45 Steen Road. So it's quite a lot of internal work there. So anyone, Councillor Latham?
Thank you. I think it's extremely well
I didn't ask, sorry, I didn't ask the public. Anyone? No. Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Extremely well
Yep.
thought through proposal. I appreciate that it's listed, but I certainly support this application.
Okay, thank you. Second, Councillor Lindsay Freeman. Anyone else like to talk on the item? No, so all those in favour for the internal works. Thank you, that's unanimous again, thank you. Planning application for weekend in 24th of November 2017, LW 170963, 34 Salisbury Road, that's for a single story rear extension. Anyone else on members of the public like to talk on the item? No?
There's an additional objection letter. Well, it's just been put on the website today, so some members might have missed it if they were checking. It's an objection from number 36 Salisbury Road, who make objections on the basis of the fact that the extension doesn't comply with the local plan with regard to overlooking loss of daylight. They point out that the extension is sort of protrudes right into the back garden up against their boundary and will affect the principal living room of their house due to the orientation of the property. It's the only elevation of their property that benefits from direct sunlight from early morning to mid-afternoon, and the proposed extension will block that sunlight. And there will be an additional overhang, apart from the 4 metres intrusion of the on the rear elevation. There will be an additional 1 metre overhang, which will emphasise the loss of light and screening effect, and that the proposed flat roof is out of keeping with other properties in the area, and that a conventional tiled roof similar to the extension on the other side of the property at number 38 would be more appropriate. And again, it's the fact that it's right up against their boundary, so maintenance would be difficult without consent under the Party Wall Act, but the neighbour hadn't approached them at all to discuss any of these matters.
So 34 and 36 are basically semis, as probably everyone realised when they were doing their research. So anyone like to start on this one? Councillor Elton?
It's difficult, isn't it? I looked at I looked at it this morning, and I didn't think there was a problem with it until I read the letter today, and after listening to the letter, I don't support it actually. So,
On the grounds of the neighbour, effectively.
On the grounds of what I've heard, yeah.
It's more the lack
The loss
of
of light, yes, yeah.
And also out of keeping with the flat roof, or not, is that not so much of an issue for you?
Not so much of an issue.
No.
Flat roofs are pretty common, aren't they? So.
Councillor Latham.
Thank you, Chair. And like Councillor Elton, I was going to support this application until I heard the objection from number 36. And I feel, providing that letter is accurate,
Yeah, well, that's I know.
I would be prepared to, I would like to second Councillor Elton's proposal to object to the application. And then if we're wrong, Lewis will.
Yeah, I've had a close look at it myself, and I think there's a possibility of a problem there, given the fact that it's right up against the boundary. I mean, I can see arguments both ways on it, but as I say, there is an element of concern over the effect in the way it protrudes into the garden, and also the fact that it's, looking at the north-south alignment, that is certainly supportable, because it will, the sun comes around to the south of number 34, and definitely would have an effect on the daylight sunlight into 36.
Essentially what they're doing is building out on the current raised terrace.
Yeah,
and then they're going to move the raised terrace further down into the garden, which steps down. I can see it does make sense.
So it's a lack of light, but more concerned with the flat roof's not so much the issue, really. Is it? Well,
roof and overdevelopment, maybe.
In my other guise as a private planning consultant, I can say I can make an argument either way. I can just leave it at that.
So we're really sticking with lack of light more than anything. Well, we can say overdevelopment if you think so.
Well, with respect to the neighbours, pressure on the neighbours, it is overdevelopment.
Because it goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So they're the two main. So are you proposing seconding then? Okay. Anyone else like to talk on the item? No.
I was supportive of it, and I probably still am, to be fair.
Okay. So all those in favour then of objecting on the two grounds we just mentioned, all those want to object?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favour of objection.
Anyone against? And abstain?
No.
Are you supporting the
I'm supporting it.
So
You
it's
misworded it all, yeah, but it's carried anyway.
Carried 6-1.
Okay, that's fine. So it's objection. Okay. Right, we're now in the national park. Southern National Park planning, week ending 14th of November at SDNP/17/05331, New Barn, Silver Lane, Bishopstone Village, which is really on the edge of the village as well. So that's for the garages into the swimming pool. Anyone like to talk on the item? No? Members of the committee? Councillor Goyals, and we've gone.
This has already been, this is an old planning consent, isn't it? And it sounds like they've almost finished it, or they finished it. It's converted barn, isn't it? They've converted part of the barn to garages, now they've changed their mind and want to convert it to a swimming pool and a plant room, or whatever that is. I don't have a problem with that. It's very detailed plans online, they've knocked themselves out. It's pretty good, so I would support it.
Yeah, I mean, externally, there's no differences there. That's what we're sort of looking at.
Yeah.
That's the immediate thing I saw. Anyone else like to talk on the item? Councillor Goodman?
No, it's only I'd like to second Councillor Latham's.
Okay, Councillor Bourne? You're fine. Anyone else want to talk on the matter though? So we're in favour of the application here, so all those in favour to support? That's carried unanimous, thank you.
Just as a point, and then that was just to support it, providing it's regulations and the totals of it. I think this is put that in.
Okay, agenda item 7. Secret parking review, initial consultation. to consider report 9817 on proposed wide resident parking scheme in the Belgrave Road area of Seaford. Members of the public want to talk on this item? No? Okay. Do you want to say something?
Well, just that it's a very tentative initial consultation. It's quite sensible, really. I think the county have received concerns from residents here about parking, so they're testing the water to see whether it's worth their while going ahead, because to go ahead with a parking order like this is expensive, drawing up an advertising order, so they don't want to go and commit resources without being sure that it's a scheme that is generally supported. So in a way it's like a straw poll or a tentative toe in the water. They're doing a survey of the residents and obviously have been kind enough to include the town council.
As you say, thank you very much. Yes, and as you say, sometimes another thing I will add is that sometimes people, when they think about expansion of towns, infrastructure, roads, you need your roads, you need your hospitals, you need your schools. But some people don't always think about the car parking side of things. And Seaford does actually lack what I say a major car park. It does have the seafront, but they haven't got a major car park. Just something I'll just throw in there. Councillor Lafe, go on.
Thanks, Chair. I think something does need to be done about parking there, but I don't think the residents should be charged to park their cars. And I think the charges being suggested are ridiculously high. So I would oppose the application on that basis alone. But having said that, the timing for this is totally appropriate because this is slap bang in the middle of the Dane Valley project for the neighbourhood plan. And the neighbourhood plan is going to cause all sorts of changes in that area if it goes through. So this is premature, probably by 5 years, I should think. I would like to see something done, though, with regard to the parking issues, but I think it's the wrong time. So I'm opposed to it.
Of course, that's just saying individual councillors could reply on their own behalf. They want, if they of different parts of the town, they've got different issues. You could do it under a different hat if they wanted to. Are you the central council, aren't you, Councillor Goodman?
Yeah.
Would you like? It's in your area, isn't it?
It is my area.
Do you want to say something about it?
Yeah, no, I'm totally against charging the people. I mean, for the second permit, they're charging 3 times as much as the first one. I think it's disgusting. No, yeah, parking issues. I have had one. It's in Chichester Road where a lady was complaining with regards to people parking their cars outside their house and going off to London on the train. They were stuck there. It came up on an SLR meeting when I was on there before, and we were told to speak to the police sergeant, Sergeant Mullins. And when I mentioned it to him, he said it's nothing to do with the police. We've got no jurisdiction on traffic. Phone the parking shop, and they'll come over and put a ticket on them. Well, by the time they come over and put a ticket on them, if they ever did, I mean, it's just defeating the whole object.
Yeah, I mean, parking shop there isn't going to see it
anyway. I do feel, yes, they should have a permit, but not at such a high cost.
So what you're trying to say, I'm here for both Councillor Latham and Councillor Goodman. You're in a way, some sort of scheme, but you're really objecting to the charge of the price of the side. It's more
I think it's too high.
Yeah. So Councillor Latham and Councillor Freeman.
Yeah, I wouldn't support any parking scheme at all, flat out against it. I used to live in Brighton and I see how these things creep, you know, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and before we know it, the whole town will be more developed. I do think there's been a big building project at Martello Place with proper flats, and I was down there in the election because there was a voting polling booth down the bottom there, and I watched all the commercial vehicles turn up in the morning. There was loads of them, loads of vans, loads of parking, and I think it's probably caused huge amounts of problems down there on a temporary level. And I think once that block of flats is finished,
but that's not consideration, as you know.
No, but I just think the parking problems might ease up a little bit down there, and maybe that's what's caused this initial consultation. Maybe there's just been a sort of bit of a knock-on effect there. Maybe I don't know. It's hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, do we know the date of the petition? I didn't check that. Date of the original identity.
Well, I think it must be quite recent.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came in from the County Council. Didn't say just a recent petition.
I just think parking in that area probably over the last year and a half has probably been difficult.
Yeah, there's been issues down there for quite a few years.
And they might ease up a bit.
Yeah.
All they just said earlier this year.
Earlier this year, right, so Councillor Freeman.
Yes, I'm concerned. My mother, toward the end of her life, had carers coming in 3 times a day. Now, if somebody is in one of these houses and they need carers 3 times a day, then how are they going to be able to get visitors permits for them when they're only allowed 100 per year for each house? They're going to need 3 times 395. So it's totally ludicrous when you look at the needs of people when they get to the end of their lives, when they've got their dependent on carers. And if the carers can't park to visit them, what's going to happen?
Okay, that's a point. Anyone else want to add to anything else? So at the moment we've got the idea of the principle, but some of the detail really needs to be looked at. That's what I'm getting on the. That's what's on the table at the moment.
I'll work all those points into the response.
Go, Councillor Ball.
Just adding as well, then, obviously a lot, the Secret Chamber of Commerce are very concerned about this, because it's obviously the position of where it is, and they will be writing in, objecting strongly. But there's got to be addressed. You know,
well, this is it, this is an issue.
And obviously people are saying commuters, and as Councillor Elton said, it's difficult at the moment to ascertain whether it is just commuters, whether it's workers on the building site. So, you know, I actually asked specifically that we defer this, or urge the council to defer this into after development, and then actually look at it, and if that's possible.
Well, in our response, we can ask for it to be looked at again after that development's been completed.
The consultation should actually be stopped at this point in time, until that's completed, and then say 3 months after that, see if it's talking about. I know it's frustrating the residents because there's no resolution, but you need to get the proper balance, and then the correct decisions can be made. But say there's a lot of objection. I would, in fact, I probably will go and speak to the leader tomorrow about this, and see whether it can be halted to Scott Station Field at the moment. I don't see a press release as to why.
Well, I won't mention that.
No, I won't do that.
Yeah, that's right. If you want to do that, you'll we've got on the table at the moment. That's what we're looking at.
Yes, I'm concerned. How many dwellings are they putting in the Martello place, house, whatever they're calling it? Because they will come. The problem of cars.
There's parking underneath there. There is parking underneath, so there may be a formula they work out. There is parking underneath. But
1 or 2 cars per flat, whatever, I don't know.
I think, as I say, we've still got that initial, just the general principle, but the detail, we can't commit to the detail effectively at this stage. I think that's what we're basically supporting, isn't it, really? If any individual councillor wants to respond, they're allowed to do that in their own councillor response. If their own personal perspective, they can do that independently by that date, the 22nd. And I think we'll do that. I'll mention that. You can put it in the note there. That's okay. Just about individual councillors that may want to respond in their own capacity. So basically, it's just the principle of the development we're happy, but the detail we're not clear about the detail anyway.
No, I think we've got to object.
No, we haven't got an objection. We have two proposals at the moment, Councillor Ball.
Are we actually voting on this, supporting it? Is that what we're?
The principle.
It would be helpful if there was a vote on either supporting or not.
I mean, we can't make an informed decision over.
But this is basically a brief. This is a brief surmise anyway. This is not a detail. It's just getting the feeling. That's what we're doing. Councillor Latham,
we vote on deferring this until the development work is completed.
Development of what?
Around where the opposite Women's Institute,
Martello Place, Martello Place.
And 2, until the neighbourhood plan has been approved, and then we will know with regard to the effect of the neighbourhood plan on parking as well. So there are 2 issues that I think we need to reference.
So you're talking about actually deferring it to possible neighbourhood plan implementation about 2019-20 sort of thing?
Yeah.
Do you think they'd like that?
Well, they
can try.
They can consider it.
Yeah.
This was an issue that was raised by an East Sussex County Councillor from residents. That's how the petition started, I understand it. Yeah, I'm more than happy to go over there, and I was mindful of it, and put it forward what we've decided this evening, that we should object to it and actually squash this consultation at this point in time. I do understand the frustration of local residents there, don't get me wrong, also understand the frustration of businesses, but until we get that completion and as Councillor Labour puts in place, it's not going to be a fair thing at all. You know, it's just a
Can't make
temporary
a decision.
Yeah, you can't.
So we object to it now and ask for it and ask for it to be reviewed in a few years' time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, fine.
And I'm more than willing to.
So are you ready to, Councillor Latham, Councillor Argent, go on.
Well, for many years now, Lewis have been trying to get a Lewis type parking charge in Seaford.
Yeah, that's right.
And if we allow this to go on,
Yeah.
this would be just a lever in the door. You will find it will spread to what they want from Southdown Road down to Claremont Road. And everybody then will have to pay to park outside their own house, if they're lucky.
As I said, it actually has a detrimental effect on the value of the report. There's still no guarantee that residents will go and park outside their property.
That's always the way anyway, that's always the way.
This is the other point, so, you know, and that's the other point to put across as well. It doesn't guarantee them a parking space or their visitors outside their.
It never does anyway.
No, that's right.
That's right.
And so therefore, it's.
Well, Councillor Elton.
Just one other thing, it just pushes a lot of people just instead of parking there, they'll park in a road beyond. It'll just move the problem elsewhere, often it does. And that's why things tend to creep and they get bigger and bigger.
I mean, I understand the parking problem's got to be solved, but the thing is, when you get people parking up, say, in any of these roads here, you walk into the station and go to London for a day.
I think we'd welcome. I think we'd welcome party to look, working with party at some point to look at this.
Yeah.
No, I think we should.
So how about, obviously, so that initial proposal to the principles of it, we'll drop that now, if everyone's happy with that. Go, Councillor Freeman.
Yeah, can I propose that we just object to it full stop?
And don't say, and we got, but do we want to add, there's any, we're still in three separate issues? That's up to the rest of the,
I really say,
Yeah.
I object to this in principle.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from the cost and the possibility of encroaching further, and the difficulties of getting visitors permits, there's just so much to object.
I'll second that.
Okay, right, so if you're happy, we're happy that we just, so we'll have a complete, complete deferral, but just completely, and don't even refer to no plan or anything.
Well, yeah,
Or further development of Dane Valley.
Yeah.
It's got to be stronger than just subjective. It's got to be the points that Alan and I raised.
Yeah,
that we need to refer. This consultation should be squashed for the time being on
the grounds of Dane Valley and
those things around on and Dane Valley.
Yeah, you just can't just
And
say
we
object.
do that, and we
So
do.
there's two proposals in front of you then.
Right, so what have we got now then? So
We've got Councillor Freeman objecting full stop.
Yeah.
But there's also the proposal that the consultation is too early, that the consideration is
That's
deferred to take into account the possible effect of the completion of Martello Place and the Dane Valley project. That some restrictions need to be put in place, but not at the moment because of those factors. So there's obviously a divergence between those two.
So you were basically first. So we'll take the vote on the deferral to Dane Valley.
I don't think we're saying that some restriction needs to be put in place now. I think we moved away from that, haven't we? We're saying that we object to it because the timing is wrong for the reasons given, and be happy to consider it again in due course.
Yeah, but we've got to squash this
But do we mention specifics like the Nova Plan and Dane Valley? Yeah, we have to. I think to get a bit of focus on it. Yeah.
It is the 2 points, those two key points, Dane Valley and the Martello. That's the 2 points.
Yeah. Okay. We're happy that we'll take the vote.
I do understand residents' frustration for that, but in the longer term, it's going to be more beneficial.
So we'll take the vote to object on what Councillor Latham, supported by Councillor Bourman, said there. So all those in favour to object on that basis.
Pushing it back.
Pushing it back effectively, yeah.
That's 5.
All those against, abstain.
That's carried.
That's 3. Yeah, that's carried for those for that objection. With those conditions noted. So agenda item. The updates, yeah. 8. So it's the decisions. at the moment. And notable ones are the ones at the bottom really, I'd say there's about the Holt, 20 the Holt, and that James Waste comes back again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And James Waste
we
as well.
need to, I can't remember, yeah, we supported approval of that.
Yeah,
So
that we did, yeah.
we need just the okay to take that approval on to, as a submission on the appeal. Because they're asking for, obviously, for representations on the appeal. We supported it. I usually sort of repeat that to the planning inspector on the appeal, if it's okay with members.
I've got to abstain from this, sorry, I didn't realise.
So are we talking about that one? Which one are we talking about?
The James Waste one.
Okay, yeah. I understand why you have to abstain on that. Yeah,
Not because the council, you've got to use it.
Yeah.
I have to abstain.
personally, yeah, that's
So
fine.
is it,
Absolutely.
is it okay that we, is it okay that we put representation on that appeal following our support of the application on the 23rd of February?
Yeah, so we're still basically supporting.
They're supported on the basis of supporting a local business.
Yeah, that's what we were doing on that situation. So we got the second proposal and seconder for that. They're happy. Councillor Argent.
Thank you.
Councillor Nick Freeman. So all those in favour of that one. So that's.
Yeah, that's
more or less, isn't it?
Yes, I mean it's just
that might come back.
We were supported on Grosvenor Lodge, but not on Barron's Close. They were at the last meeting. That's just a note.
Okay, so where do we note the report then? Anyone? Let's have a quick seconded proposal to note the whole report. Councillor Freeman and Councillor Elton. That's great. So all those in favour? Brilliant. Okay. Good though, isn't it? Good to do it.
8:50.
Yeah, I think we'll draw the meeting to a close, and the time is, I think you're absolutely right, 8:50 will do. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.